If I knew what I know now about making money online, I could have made my first $1 million in 2 months. So today I'm going to compress over 10 years of business advice that I wish I knew when I started, so you can skip all the mistakes that I made and start making money in 2025. It took me 5 years and a lot of trial and error and failures to make my first $1 million in profit. So let's start with tip number 1, which is what I would consider to be a game changer for any business looking to make their first $100,000. And this is that your average order value is your biggest lever to pull to scale rapidly. Yes, so you'll either want to focus on high ticket items or a high AOV average order value through multi-item orders for the fastest way to scale your total revenue. So this means they're either buying like one big expensive item or a bunch of small items in a transaction that together come to a total higher average order value. So for my Etsy shop, I started selling $50 floral letters. Now I scaled in a huge way when I started adding in 2 things. One was $600 flower walls that were very large, right? It was a one item, they're spending $600 on it. The second thing was multi-item orders with apparel for teams and organizations. So these 2 things were high dollar transactions. Sometimes it's a super expensive item, or sometimes it's an item that people will just buy a lot of at one time. And when each transaction is over $300 on average in your shop, you'll get to $1,000 days or $2,000 days much faster. But what if you don't know how to get someone to buy something expensive from your shop? Then this next tip is to treat your product mix like a sports team. Yes, that means each product is a player on your team and they each have a different purpose and strength. Some of them, they're really meant to score the points, maybe make the profit. And some of them are meant to just get the ball moving down the field or down the court at a faster pace. The key is you don't want to stack your team with all the same type of player. Because remember, you will not win with a team filled with point guards, right? You need different strengths on the team with different players. This means no more one product shops. And as soon as I figured this out and I went beyond only floral letters, I added in mobiles, cake toppers, name signs, supplies, many more products, then the revenue started to scale rapidly. And because these products serve the same customer, it benefits point number 1, which was driving up your average order value as a lever. Now, if you're really wanting to boost your sales, you need a financial sales plan for your business, even from the very beginning of just getting your first sales. This means that each month you will be forecasting your sales against your sales plan. And to really manage cash flow, you'll actually forecast the monthly cost for your labor, your cost of goods sold on the product, and your Etsy shipping and fees. This financial sales plan will be your North Star. And if you're not using a financial sales plan, you are literally flying blind. I am curious how many of you are using a financial sales plan right now. It's actually mind-blowing to me how many 7-figure shops are flying blind without a financial sales plan. And remember that the only way to improve your numbers is to pay more attention to them. And if you're really serious about scaling your revenue and your profit, then you really need to pay attention to all the numbers and track them on a monthly basis at minimum. Most people think that planning and forecasting is enough, but if you really want to be successful, then you will also plan and forecast your hiring. Yes, you will have a plan in place for the next 2 to 5 hires at minimum. Now, this means you are looking at your needs, your strengths, and where you have the most leverage with your time. And you're filling it around that while anticipating the hiring needs based on growth and volume. So for me, I do this at least 12 months ahead. And planning and forecasting your hires, this will allow you to build a pipeline of talent for these roles before you actually need to hire these roles. Do you have a pipeline of talent? Do you know how to build a pipeline of talent? Are you planning and forecasting your hires? If not, it's a huge miss and it will cost the business. Now, what if you plan and forecast your hires, but someone quits unexpectedly? Desperate hiring is by far one of the most risky things you could do for your business. Because when you are in a place of panic and desperation when someone quits, it is very tempting to lower your standard for what you will accept. And you might be tempted to say yes to the first person who seems good enough. So instead of desperate hiring, what I would recommend is a 2-step process. So the first step is negotiating a longer ramp down time. So instead of a 2 weeks notice, or some people give a 1 week notice, negotiate negotiate 3 to 4 weeks, and then negotiate part-time 1099 status until they have trained in their replacement. Honestly, it's worth it to pay them at a slightly higher rate because that's going to save you so much time and get this new person ramped up much faster. I would also have the person who's leaving help interview for the new role if you are not an expert in that employee's day-to-day. Now, of course, this is only if you are leaving on good terms where they genuinely want the best for your business. Otherwise, that could completely backfire and you don't want any overlap with the previous person and the new person. Another way to ensure that you're not desperate hiring is to interview at minimum 5 people for every role you're hiring for. You absolutely need a point of reference and comparison when you're evaluating your options. So for me, even if I like the first person that I speak with, I will speak with at least 4 other people. Interviewing 4 more people, yeah, it might take 1 more week, but it is so worth it to avoid a super costly hiring mistake. Now, maybe you are at the point in your Etsy business where you don't have an employee yet and you are making your first hire. Then my best advice is to hire for the things that are already happening in the business, not all new things that you are not currently doing. Let me explain this. I see so many people who are completely swamped with their Etsy shop, with customer service and fulfillment and creating listings, and then they'll decide to hire for a position such as email marketing or social media when they're not even doing email marketing or social media currently. And they're hiring to cater to untapped opportunities versus hiring to alleviate current constraints in the business. And I learned this from Alex Hormozi. New opportunities, they look exciting and attractive, but if you're more focused on new opportunities than fixing current problems, then chasing new opportunities will only amplify current problems. So my best tip is to look at what you currently do in a day and what is taking most of your time. We also look at what you are not good at and what you do not enjoy, or what you could outsource for lower than your hourly wage, and then we hire that out first. And my last tip for hiring, and actually probably my biggest efficiency tip, this is my Loom video step 1 process. Have this person send you a Loom video recording that's 2 to 3 minutes, just sharing about their background and why they think they're a good fit for the role. Then you can really assure that their communication style aligns with yours, and you can also tell if they have the critical thinking skills versus them just reading something from ChatGPT. And then the next step is an in-person interview followed by a test project. Never hire without that test project. I did it once and I will never do it again. It was actually for a social media role, and I learned very quickly I would never not do a test project again. All right, now moving away from hiring, let's talk about pricing strategies. Now, after managing $100 million portfolios at Zappos, I learned a lot about pricing strategy. When you're coming up with new products for promotional times, or when you're coming up with ideas for how you will hit your financial goals in Q4, you always want to be thinking about the price that you want to sit at. So what is the optimal high converting price point? And then we'll put together the specifics of the product, the quality, the features, etc. Now, this is especially key for gifting times like the holidays. And you need to know what price point thresholds your customer is shopping at. So at Zappos, on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we would always have a slipper at $20. We'd have a running shoe at $50. We'd have a casual sneaker at $30, and so forth. For your shop, this means we want to know what price points are going to hit and convert well. Let's say it's $20. Then let's say you want to maintain a 40% gross margin on this product. This means then your cost, including shipping and fees, will need to be at or below $12. Now, this is great to know your costs, but let's imagine that you're trying to compete with bestsellers and there's no way to compete on price. So how else do you win? This brings me to my next strategy, which is to compete with speed. People will pay for convenience and speed. So if you can offer the same thing at the same price as the competition, but you deliver the value twice as fast, you will win. Also, the most profitable customers, they value time more than money, so they are often willing to pay even more for that greater efficiency. Let's say, for example, you sell embroidered hats. Your competition uses Printful and the delivery date is 2 weeks after it's ordered. Well, instead, you could charge the same amount, commit to shipping it out in 48 hours, and win based on that speed and convenience to the customer. And speed is one of my favorite competitive advantages to do with giftable items. And this is absolutely a clear way to win in the month of December when others have their shipping cut off at December 10th. And because you can turn a product around in 2 days, you can have that whole week of the 10th to the 17th thriving, and the other shops, right, their sales have tanked due to their turnaround time and their shipping cutoff. So that brings me to the next way to add value to your business in a way that crushes the competition. And that is through your testimonials and reviews. And we have to remember that people buying on Etsy, they are looking to solve a problem, right? They want to trust that the outcome or solution will be what they expected. So your reviews, especially the ones that show clear proof and photos, are invaluable. And you will see the more you showcase your reviews, the higher the conversion rate because the higher the trust. Reviews remove some of that perceived risk of buying a product. So all the initiatives and strategies to get a flood of feedback is always going to be worth your time, and it truly can become your biggest asset. And if you are super competitive like me, then alongside reviews, you will want to focus on this next area of competitive advantages. And this is through sourcing. And I'm not only talking about sourcing with materials and inventory, but also with agencies and contractors. You are going to want to get really good at making connections, at finding the best value, and at identifying unique products or talent that can get your business to the next level and really provide you with a competitive edge. So sourcing with both products and talent is essential for crushing the competition. And with these areas, it's actually very difficult for people to compete if they don't have that skill. Now, when it comes to labor costs, you will want to pay close attention to this next point, or you will start losing money really fast. And this is that you need to manage your increases of labor cost with your increases in profit. And this is essential to maintain a healthy business. So I'm always looking at the increase in profit to make sure that it's at least more than my increase in my labor cost. You have to be really good at managing both of these things closely and tracking their changes month over month. And that is, after all, what makes a profitable growing company. If you're finding, oh no, I'm hiring these people and my revenue, my profit's not even increasing, then we need to take some time to focus on their days to make sure that they're only filled with revenue generating activities. Now, this next area is my secret weapon when it comes to profitability for any business on Etsy or beyond. And this is to start with organic for the most healthy, scalable growth. So I am a huge proponent of scaling with organic before jumping into ads. If you're like, what is organic? Is this like bananas, apples, food? No, with organic, I'm talking about where the traffic comes from, where the leads come from, where the awareness of the brand comes from. It's free. You're not paying for the traffic. You're not paying for the visibility. We want to focus on building that initial customer base and awareness with organic for the most healthy long-term growth. And why is that? A lot of people will say, oh, you just put some products up on Shopify and then you start running ads to them. This rarely works profitably for people. You have to establish proof of concept and get customer feedback with organic customers, and then refine and optimize the product so that ads would even give you the best ROAS. Focusing on organic gives you that opportunity to really listen to the customer and optimize your products. Organic growth gets you more qualitative customer feedback than running ads. And when you start growing organically, then it ends up giving you and your brand this built-in, baked-in traffic source or customer base. And then if you want to do ads, that can be kind of gravy on top. So I always recommend going with organic first and then really building a consistent customer base from that. Now I have some more personal pieces of advice because bigger levels, bigger devils. And as a business owner, there will be people who hate to see you succeed. The haters will absolutely come and they will come at you hard, but this means that you are doing something right. If your success is making someone so uncomfortable that they hate you for it, remember that is not your problem. I guarantee there will be people who hate you for being successful because it makes them uncomfortable with themselves. And when they look at their life, they look at yours, they feel like crap about their own life. And remember, if you are actually taking so much of someone's time and mental energy, that is kind of crazy, the type of power you have over them. And I would say the biggest thing that you can do in these situations, whether it's a competitor who's copying you or a follower who's saying you're trash business, this is to move forward with your head held high. Don't even give them your energy and just focus on doing what is making your business successful. And really do what you're good at. Focus on what you're good at because you will not change another person. And the bigger you become, the more of a target you will be for people. All business owners will face hate when they become successful. So don't be surprised by it. Don't be fazed by it. If you are looking for a way to grow on Etsy with just a few $100s to spend, I actually have an entire video breaking that down right here. So go check it out.